Are sanctuary city policies to blame for the shooting of an off-duty Border Patrol agent? Is the White House more concerned about Benjamin Netanyahu than it's letting on? And is Ambien to blame for Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance during the 2024 election? I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and America's News starts right now. Tonight, White House border czar Tom Homan is here, and he's promising to flood the zone with ICE agents in New York City.
So sanctuary cities get exactly what they don't want, more agents in the community.
After an off-duty Border Patrol agent was shot in the face by an illegal immigrant. Then, does a Florida Republican have the answer to a path for citizenship for illegal immigrants with no criminal record? She says hardworking individuals need to be treated differently. But do her fellow Republicans agree? And later, Hunter Biden says his father was taking Ambien before his disastrous debate with President Trump.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Chris Cillizza is here and says this isn't adding up. Happy Monday. We lead tonight with a breaking news story all day long. The term sanctuary city sounds so compassionate and kind, but the Trump administration argues that in practice, sanctuary city policies are costing Americans money and lives. For example, at any given time, New York City jails are holding illegal immigrants wanted by ICE. But instead of handing those wanted criminals over to federal agents, more often than not, they are released into the streets. And in some cases, including one alleged just this weekend, those migrants then go off to commit more crimes. White House border czar Tom Homan, for one, has had enough.
We're going to flood the zone. You don't want to let us into jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail. You want to release him into the street, which makes it unsafe for the community, makes it unsafe for the officer, makes it unsafe for the alien. Anything can happen on a street arrest. So what we're going to do, we'll have more agents in New York City to look for that bad guy. So sanctuary cities get exactly what they don't want, more agents in the community and more agents in the work site.
In just a moment, I'll speak live with White House border czar Tom Homan. His comments come as an off-duty Border Patrol agent is in the hospital tonight recovering after an illegal immigrant from the Dominican Republic allegedly shot him in the face. It happened during an attempted robbery in New York City this weekend. The DHS released surveillance video of the incident from late Saturday night. You can see two men on a moped near the George Washington Bridge in Manhattan. The one in the white shirt jumps off and then approaches the off-duty 42-year-old border agent and fires a gun. The agent shot back with his service weapon, hitting the assailant in the leg and in the groin. You see the assailant limp back to that moped as it speeds away. And then there is this new video from the DHS showing the moment when that injured suspect was dropped off at a hospital in the Bronx. His accomplice driving away on that moped. Police arrested the shooter at the hospital. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem today said the driver of that moped is also now in custody. She says both men are here illegally from the Dominican Republic, and each has a long rap sheet with crimes including felony grand larceny, assault, and attempted robbery. According to the DHS, the alleged shooter alone has 4 prior arrests and failed to show up for a deportation hearing this past November.
There's absolutely zero reason that someone who is scum of the earth like this should be running loose on the streets of New York City. He was arrested 4 different times in New York City, and because of the mayor's policies and sanctuary city policies, was released back to do harm to people and to individuals living in this city.
Responding to that criticism today, New York City's Mayor Eric Adams said he supports ending the revolving door criminal justice system that puts these 2 suspects back on the street. And he said he supports Tom Homan's call to flood the zone with ICE, as long, he says, as long as ICE agents go after violent criminals.
Do what? To go after dangerous people like this individual who shot an innocent a custom Border Patrol agent. He's lying in a hospital when I went to see him. heavily sedated. He was, shot while sitting down enjoying the heat. If he's going to assist us to go after those individuals, I welcome it. If it's going to be to go after everyday individuals who are trying to complete the path to be a citizen, then I don't think we should do that.
White House Border Czar Tom Homan joins me now, former Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Tom, it's great to have you on the show. First, I want to hear how the officer who was shot is doing. You visited that ICE agent in the hospital, spoke to his family. What's the latest on his condition?
Well, look, they think he's going to live. I mean, he's fighting for his life. He's in bad shape. I mean, when I was there, he was heavily sedated, so he wasn't conscious. They're trying to keep him heavily sedated till some of the swelling goes down, so he can have surgery, additional surgery. So I did talk to his mom and his friend that was with him that night, and they're still in shock. Their heart's broken. I mean, this man's laying in bed, in terrible shape, and just for sitting on the park bench with his friend, next to the water. I mean. And this has happened numerous times in New York City. And this time it happened to be a flagellation, but we've all seen the videos of illegal aliens in Times Square attacking NYPD officers and average United States citizens. It's enough. I mean, criminal aliens have no place walking the streets of America attacking American citizens.
The shooter was caught at the border in Arizona in 2023 when he crossed over illegally. He had an active deportation order. Why was he released? Were there any conditions attached to that release?
Oh, no. I looked at the file. He was released OR on his own recognizance. So, this is what the Biden administration did. 10.5 million people came to the border. They released millions into the United States without proper vetting. Both of these people, the shooter and his accomplice, both entered under the Biden administration. Both were released. Both are criminals. And this is why President Trump came into office. And first thing we did under President Trump's leadership, we ended catch and release. The law is clear. The federal law is clear. When you come to our border illegally and you don't have proper documentation to enter, the law says you shall be detained. Not maybe, not think about it, not release them to an NGO, not send them to New York City. It says they shall be detained. And that's what President Trump has done. We're enforcing law. No one is being released from the border when they enter illegally.
This man who shot the off-duty officer had several prior arrests in New York City and in Massachusetts, including for robbery and stabbing. Why wasn't he in custody pending trial? It's amazing that this man was released after being charged with crimes as serious as these.
Well, there's a lot of people that follow here. You got Governor Hochul, who supports, the bail reform law. So people walk out of the NYPD precincts every day. They walk out of sheriff stations every day across the state because there's the bail reform law that New York State passes and Governor Hochul supports. Shame on her. But look, the NYPD is not allowed to work with ICE on a continuing basis because there's sanctuary law. And I blame the city council. City council created that sanctuary city law. I had arrangements to actually have ICE get back into Rikers Island. City council stopped that. I mean, city council's #1 responsibility, I would think, is protection of their communities, protection of the constituents. And ICE was close to getting back into Rikers Island where we can talk to the bad guy in the safe setting. And if we want to detain him, take custody of him in the safety and security of a jail rather than release him to the street. And then we have to go find him. And while we're finding him, commit other crimes. But the city council sued and stopped that.
Yeah.
So I put a lot of blame on the city council for the sanctuary laws and pushing back on us trying to do the right thing in New York City.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in that news conference the two of you appeared in today, also blamed Mayor Eric Adams and the sanctuary city policy. She said this officer is in the hospital fighting for his life because of the mayor of this city. Do you agree with that? Was this a failure by Mayor Adams?
Look, there's an election going on right now as a White House employee. I got to be careful violating Hatch Act. There's an election ongoing. So let me just say this. I don't want to get into politics in this. Politics is why we're in the position we're in. People put politics over public safety. And every sanctuary city does it. New York, LA, Chicago. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So bottom line is sanctuaries are sanctuaries for criminals. Every elected official, mayor, governor, city council person, they're elected to in their number one responsibility is protection of the communities and sanctuary cities, sanctuary city policies. Sanctuaries are sanctuaries for criminals, but they want to say they want to put out, well, we're a sanctuary because we want victims and witnesses of crime in the immigrant community to feel welcome to come and report their crime and not worry about we're working with ICE. That is just a bunch of crap, because victims and witnesses of a crime don't want the bad guy released in the neighborhood either. So work with ICE. Let us have custody of the bad guy in the safety and security county jail and watch the crime rate drop. Already we arrested 3 times more criminals under President Trump than President Biden did. Every day we make this country safer. Every day when ICE takes a public safety threat off the street or a national security threat off the street, we're keeping this country safer and keeping President Trump's promise to the American people that we're going to make America safe again.
We just heard Mayor Eric Adams today saying he actually welcomes ICE agents to come onto the streets of New York City. As you said, they're coming, we're going to flood the zone. But he drew the line only to arrest immigrants with criminal records, not to arrest other immigrants who have no criminal record. What did you make of those comments by the mayor?
Well, bottom line is President Trump and myself have been saying from day one, our priorities are public safety threats and national security threats. That's who we're focusing on. But like I said earlier, when you showed my comments earlier, but when they force us into the neighborhood, because they won't let us into jail, when they force us into the neighborhood to find that bad guy, many times we find others. Others that aren't a criminal target, but they're in the U.S. illegally, we're not walking away from them. We're not telling ICE officers, ignore the law, ignore the oath you took. He's illegally in the United States, but don't worry about it. No, we're taking them in custody too. And as I said during my remarks today, if you don't want to let us in the jail, we're going to have to go to the community and find them, which means more officers in the neighborhood, more officers and worksite enforcement, because we're going to find that criminal alien. So again, I'll say it again, let us in the jail. More officers in the jail means less officers on the street.
The Manhattan Borough president says ICE can and does arrest people at the Rikers jail. He says ICE just needs a warrant. What do you make of that? Is that true? And is there an issue or a delay getting the warrants, or is it an added administrative and bureaucratic step?
He doesn't know what he's talking about. He ought to read the law. Because when Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act, the requirement ICE has to take custody of somebody in jail is a detainer and administrative warrant. We don't need a judge's warrant. The law's not written that way. But they like to say that, well, get a judicial warrant, knowing that judicial warrant's not even in the process, as a way to push back and try to defend their bad policy. We don't need a judicial warrant. We have an administrative warrant. That's what the law requires, accept our judicial warrant. Many sheriffs across this country accept the judicial warrant. But sanctuary cities, they'll use that byline as a way to push back on the truth. The truth is we don't need a judicial warrant. We issue an administrative warrant. That's what law requires. They can hand them over. And look, bottom line is, let's they could actually hand them over to us. Just call us before you release them. You don't have to hold them 1 minute past you would normally hold them. Just call us when you release them, and we'll be there. You don't have to hold them for a minute. We'll be there. We'll take them.
Right.
But it's a judicial warrant, not needed. The law don't require it.
Worth reminding our audience, you're talking about people who are in prison or in jail and who are either credibly accused or convicted of crimes. Tom Homan, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Don't be a stranger. We'd love to have you back.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Staying on the topic of immigration now, the Trump administration is trumpeting the historically low numbers of encounters along the southern border while keeping its goal of 1 million deportations a year. That's a huge undertaking, and that requires a lot of manpower and a lot of funding. That's where the big, beautiful bill comes in. It allocates $170 billion for immigration enforcement and border security. $75 billion of that goes to ICE to build new detention centers and hire 10,000 new officers. But all the resources poured into the immigration crackdown and the results may give the administration the political capital to perhaps extend an olive branch to the illegal immigrants who are otherwise law-abiding and hardworking. There may be popular support for such measures, as support for large-scale raids and deportations appears to be sliding. One government CBS YouGov poll shows that 56% of Americans now disapprove of the way the deportations are being carried out. Some of those people are Republicans. Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar thinks that deportations at their current rate may be going too far, to the point where they will have a major economic impact. She's worried that key industries like farming and food services will lose workers en masse. So she has joined forces on reintroducing a bipartisan bill that provides legal status for anyone who has been here illegally since 2021. They call it the Dignity Act. And Congresswoman Maria Salazar joins me now. Great to have you back on the show. So this is the second time you've tried to get Congress to do what it has failed to do for decades, which is pass immigration reform. Does your bill have a lot of support this time?
Well, I thank you for the opportunity. And, you know, in life, everything is timing, and this is the right timing. And I do want to say I was listening to your interview with Mr. Homan, and I agree with him that sanctuary cities are not good for anybody. Sanctuary cities are not good for the Hispanics or for the illegals or for the hardworking tax-paying Americans. What ICE needs to have the cooperation of the local authorities so they can find the bad hombres. And that is exactly what we need. So we do support that position. And yeah, the dignity bill, look, the immigration system is broken. It's been broken for 40 years. And what I'm trying to do with this piece of legislation is just to try to find a solution. So what does that mean? You have 10 million plus people who have been here in this country for more than 5 years. I'm not talking about the Biden migrants. Look at those two criminals who just assaulted this ICE agent. They should have been out of here a long time ago. No mercy on the illegal who's a criminal. Now, when you're talking about those people who work in construction, hospitality, and agricultural, who have been here for more than 5 years, who do not have a criminal record, those people don't have no business being in this country. Them and people like him, because all they're doing is hurting our community and hurting the average American that is law-abiding and tax-paying. So what the Dignity Bill does, basically, is to bring out of the shadows those illegals who have been here for more than 5 years, who do not have a criminal record, period, who have been contributing, working. So bring them out of the shadows and make them pay, and then I can explain to you the law if we have time.
That's the most conservative part of Trump's immigration crackdown, the fact that more than 60% of the people who are being arrested and deported have no criminal record, and many of them are simply here working, albeit here illegally. Your bill would allow those people to stay here for if they've been here for 5 years. What are the rules? Explain how that would work.
The rule is that, and we will cooperate with the authorities to find because if we bring out of the shadows those who do not have a criminal record, these are not the Biden migrants, then ICE, with the resources that the BBB has just given them, will be able to hone in on and concentrate in looking for the 600,000 illegal criminals who have a violent or who have a long history of criminal activities. So what we do is that we bring them out of the shadows, those who do not have criminal record. We make them pay for 7 years $1,000. That's a big pot of money. There's around $50 billion. And then another pot of money that they need to contribute 1% of their salary or their income for 7 years. No path to citizenship. No path to citizenship, no federal programs, no health insurance. They will have to buy their own health program. And then just let them work, continue working, buy homes, contribute with the economy, go home for Christmas, bury their mom. And this is a one-shot deal, one program, one time. Why? Because now the border is going to be sealed. We do not want any more illegals. But then this will help the economy, because trying to, and Mr. Homan has a monumental job, trying to deport 10 million plus is going to take him centuries.
Right.
So let's fix the problem now.
So super quick, this would also require all employers in the United States of America to enlist and take part in E-Verify. This only works if these companies stop hiring illegal workers. Yes. So everybody has to be on the up and up.
Yes. level playing field, and the average law-abiding tax-paying American will not be affected, because then everyone will be in the level playing field and everyone will have to abide by E-Verify, everyone across the country. No one will be able to hire anyone who is illegal anymore, because those people will be out of the shadow and they will have the dignity status, and then they will be able to just make a living, but level playing field. No one is going to have an advantage of the average American.
Congresswoman Maria Salazar, keep us posted on the Dignity Act. I know this is maybe, as you said, timing might be everything here. President Trump has spoken several times about the fact that he's hearing from farmers, hearing from hotel owners that they are having trouble filling the jobs because hospitality and those picking our crops that we all eat. Congressman, keep us posted. Thank you.
That's right.
All right, coming up.
Thank you.
Coming up for us. Is Ambien to blame for Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance during the 2024 election? Hunter Biden says his father had taken the sleeping pill and that it wasn't the first time. And later, a new Axios report claims there is growing concern in the Trump White House that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is trigger happy and making things worse in the Middle East. I'll speak to a former Israeli diplomat who's long been critical of Netanyahu's war in Gaza. Hunter Biden may have been the most troublesome first son in the history of the American presidency. And tonight, despite the fact that his father is no longer president, he's still making headlines. The most recent Hunter eruption comes from a brand new interview on a podcast called Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan. It runs for more than 3 hours and is chock full of profanities and political attacks.
People are really upset about illegal immigration. F you. How do you think your hotel room gets cleaned? I say, f you. How are we getting those people back from El Salvador? We fought a revolution against a king. If you want to completely, utterly up your life, crack cocaine.
Okay. Hunter also offers a novel explanation for President Biden's disastrous debate performance last year, and again keeps our censors busy bleeping out the curse words.
I know exactly what happened in that debate. He flew around the world, basically, in the mileage that he could have flown around the world 3 times. Yeah. He's 81 years old. He's tired as They give him Ambien to be able to sleep. He gets up on the stage, and he looks like he's a deer in the headlights.
All right, so the explanation is that our president was not suffering from any sorts of mental or cognitive decline. He was just under the influence of sleeping pills on the most important night of the election season. Hunter went on. He has quite a knack for going on, attacking liberal icon George Clooney for recent comments about that ill-fated fundraiser last June, at which, according to Clooney, the president didn't remember who Clooney was.
Him and everybody around him. I don't have to be nice. Number one, I agree with Quentin Tarantino. George Clooney is not a actor. He is a I don't know what he is. He's a brand. And by the way, and God bless him. You. What do you have to do with anything? Why do I have to listen to you? What right do you have to step on a man who's given 52 years of his life to the service of this country?
Okay, joining me now on the Hot Mess Express is Chris Cillizza, NewsNation political contributor. Chris, you posted, quote, "Dude needs to stop talking, like right now."
I mean, well, in truth, I should have said, dude needs to stop talking like a month ago. But I mean, I guess Hunter Biden seems to be convinced, against all evidence to the contrary, that people really are interested in his take on the 2024 election and the Democratic Party. I mean, the best explanation, he's trying to defend his dad, but even in that, he's not helping. But if this is about trying to make the Democratic Party vibrant again, I mean, Republicans couldn't write a better script, Elizabeth.
Listen, it's astonishing. I've never heard of this podcast, but I guarantee you he's going to get more listeners and viewers after this than before.
Well, he has 3. Why do you give, just very quickly, why do you give a 3-hour interview for anything ever?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know.
no good comes out of that. And,
Yeah.
you know, it makes no sense. I don't know why he's doing this. This is the second thing he's done in about a week. He went on a podcast with Jamie Harrison, who's the former DNC chair. He said basically Joe Biden would have won if the party hadn't abandoned him. That's just factually wrong. The only thing that Hunter Biden that you played, that Hunter Biden got right in those clips is Joe Biden did look like a deer in headlights during the debate. I don't know exactly why, but Hunter Biden's right about that.
Well, that's the news here. He's now saying, for the first time we've ever heard from anybody, that President Biden was taking Ambien, that Biden has said himself he was just tired. His staff said that he had a cold. Hunter Biden is now saying he was taking Ambien, but it doesn't even make sense. Why would the president still be taking Ambien nearly 2 weeks after he finished all that overseas travel?
That's exactly right. Look, again, like you know, Joe Biden famously said, you're entitled to your own opinion, but not your own facts. Well, Hunter Biden would do well to pay attention to that because, again, it's about a 10 to 12 day period between when he lands. He was around the world. Fine.
Yes.
From when by the way, that's a scheduling problem. That is not, that's Joe Biden's scheduling, not anything else. But regardless, he is back, and there's about a 10 to 12 day lag before the debate. It's implausible. I mean, sure, you're tired the day or even 2 or 3 days after. You're tired 11 or 12 days after. It doesn't make any sense. They are trying to rewrite history. Jill and Joe Biden did this when they went on The View about a month and a half ago. Hunter Biden is now doing it. It doesn't, I don't think it serves Joe Biden because ultimately these things are very easily disproven by the facts. And secondly, the last thing the Democratic Party should or does want to talk about is how they lost the last election. How if only everybody had stood behind a guy who gave the single worst debate performance in modern American presidential history, then he would have won the election. Totally false.
Yeah.
We can debate about whether someone would have been better at Kamala Harris than Kamala Harris. Joe Biden was not going to win. No, and Hunter Biden, again, you can have your opinion, but that's just a fact.
Yeah, well, Chris, Hunter Biden comes with a lot of baggage, and a lot of the reason why President Biden was so exhausted is because he flew back from Italy to Delaware to be in a courtroom for his, sentencing.
For his trial.
On his trial. I mean, it astonishes me that nobody in Biden world has, said to Hunter Biden, please stop talking. You are...
Well, and again, but Elizabeth, I'm actually not that surprised because the truth of the matter is, go look at Hunter Biden, whether it's the business world, the art world, he's been enabled every step of the way to think he's a bright, shining star, not he has succeeded because his last name is Biden. Look, if my last name was Chris Biden, I'd be doing a lot better. You know what I mean? No offense, I love my parents, but I mean, the truth of the matter is, like, he got what he got from a business perspective because his last name was Biden. He got what he got. His art is selling for huge amounts of money because his last name is Biden. If his name is Hunter Smith, it's not happening that way. I mean, it's just the lack of self-awareness could fuel, is enough to fuel like a planet.
Well, an unpopular take here, that clip that we showed, all those clips, that is not a bright, shining star when it comes to humanity.
No.
I don't know. That is... Okay, Chris Eliza.
Never has been.
All right.
What a disaster.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your take.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
All right, coming up, we're going to switch to the Middle East because there is big news there. Civilians are starving. Hostages are suffering. The international community is voicing its outrage now every day. There is no shortage of reasons for Israel to want to end its war in Gaza. And a new Axios report says the White House is growing frustrated with Israel's prime minister. I'll speak live to a former Israeli diplomat after the break. To the Middle East now, where patience is growing as scarce as potable water in Gaza. Hamas has still not responded to the latest ceasefire and hostage proposal put forth last week. The terror group's deafening silence is proving frustrating for top officials in Israel and in the U.S. Adam Bowler, the U.S. hostage envoy, issued a blunt take-the-deal message for the group. But with no deal in place, Israel has launched a new ground offensive into parts of central Gaza, an area where several aid groups are located. It's the first time the IDF has targeted that part of Gaza in the 22 months of war because there are concerns hostages could be there. The move is just one of a series of aggressive Israeli actions in the region. Our own Kelly Meyer asked Caroline Levitt about the escalation today.
Israel, we've seen stepping up some attacks in Gaza. Has the president expressed his frustration with Netanyahu, and how does this impact the ceasefire negotiations?
He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations.
But there are reports in Axios that describe deep frustration at the White House with Netanyahu's latest actions. White House officials told Axios that Netanyahu acts, quote, like a madman. He bombs everything all the time, adding, this could undermine what Trump is trying to do. For more now, we're joined by former Israeli diplomat Alon Pinkas. Great to have you on the show. First of all, I want to ask you about this call from 25 nations around the world on Israel to end its war in Gaza. Will this have any sway on Netanyahu?
No, I doubt that, Elizabeth. I mean, this entire subject warrants a Hunter Biden vocabulary, but I will spare you that.
Thank you.
From your previous segment. No, it won't have an effect. I mean, you can ask two questions. How could you ignore 25 countries asking you to stop the war? And how can you ignore them for almost 18 months, a year and a half? And the answer is easily, because that's exactly what Mr. Netanyahu is doing. Now, what is most conspicuous about this statement is that the U.S. is not part of it, meaning, or by implication, the U.S. can stop this if the U.S. puts its mind to it and exerts pressure on Netanyahu. All it takes is one phone call in which President Trump basically threatens Netanyahu. You promised me, you said you'll deliver, you said this will end. You made a pledge to me to end this more than once. In fact, even before I became president during the transition period, you've stalled for 7 months. I have had enough. If you don't do this within the next 48 or 72 hours, 2-3 days, I will then come out publicly and point to you as the man responsible for the war going on. If Trump does that, parenthetically, he won't. But if he does that, then the war stops. Until then, Mr. Netanyahu is just infatuated with his wartime prime ministership.
And you would think he would be, I'm sure he's read this new reporting in Axios. He might be concerned about it because Trump's team is growing very concerned about Netanyahu, according to these reports, with one saying, quote, there's a sense his trigger finger's too itchy. Another says Bibi acted like a madman. He bombs everything all the time. Another member of Trump's team said Bibi's political agenda is driving him. It will turn out to be a big mistake in the long term.
And the Pope is Catholic. I mean, we've heard all this before. I'll tell you what, Elizabeth, if you take Mr. Netanyahu's career, successive American presidents or people within their administrations have said such things about Mr. Netanyahu. The Clinton administration said so in '96. There's a famous quote with Clinton using a Hunter Biden word, saying who he thinks he is and who is the superpower here. And then you had the Obama administration, then you had the first Trump administration. There were expressions like that used then, and now this. Again, Netanyahu has become impervious to these kind of stories. He's going to brush it off and dismiss it offhandedly and say, oh, well, someone anonymously called me A, B, or C. I don't care much about that. You know, everyone likes me when I do what they tell me, but everyone dislikes me when I do what's good for my country, blah, blah, et cetera, all these cliches.
Alon Pinkas, always interesting to hear your perspective. Really appreciate you staying up late in Israel to join us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good night.
All right, coming up for us, pills laced with methamphetamine disguised as Adderall. Could this be the next addiction crisis? The acting DEA administrator joins me to discuss. We have new warnings tonight from the front lines of the nation's war on drugs. The Drug Enforcement Agency says its crackdown on fentanyl is showing signs of success, but that use of another addictive drug is now on the rise. Methamphetamine is supplanting fentanyl as the most coveted drug of choice in this country, according to the DEA. It says Mexican cartels are behind the push. They're focusing on meth pills, some disguised as Adderall. The pills are easier to market, easier to take, and popular among college-age kids. I spoke to Robert Murphy, the acting administrator for the DEA, who says taking street pills is risking your life. So, Robert, you expect to double the amount of meth you're seizing this year from last year. What is driving this?
Unfortunately, there's a big demand in this country for meth, and we're seeing more and more of it. And then there's some other scary things developing in the sense that we're seeing more and more methamphetamine pills disguised as, coveted pills, like Adderall or the oxycodone, the MDMA, and that's given us some cautionary, concerns.
Is this a strategic effort by the cartels now to focus less on fentanyl and more on methamphetamine?
It's definitely strategic. It's not to focus less on fentanyl because we haven't seen a drop off. It's the fentanyl that we're seizing and still remains pretty constant. So we haven't seen that. And even to that point, we're seeing more and more carfentanil, which is even worse than fentanyl. It's about 100 times more addictive and more powerful.
And is it just as dangerous as fentanyl, just as addictive?
I would not characterize it as just as dangerous in the sense that clearly fentanyl kills more people. We're still, from a pure danger standpoint, wouldn't want anyone near fentanyl. It's borderline Russian roulette. The methamphetamine, highly addictive, very cheap, highly addictive, purely synthetic, and very profitable. And that's what's driving, that's why the Mexican cartels want to focus on it. But we're seeing, again, the pills, demand for pills. There's less stigma about someone using a pill. You have to shoot it in your arm. You don't have to snort it. You don't have to smoke it. And what the dangerous part about that we're seeing is that an unsuspecting person who thinks they're taking Adderall, MDMA, or even, oxycodone is now going to become addicted to methamphetamine, which is very destructive in your life. May not kill you instantly, but it's a miserable life being addicted to it.
And the cartels are ingenious at hiding these pills. They're hiding them in crates of green onions, in boxes of celery, even watermelons. How much money do you think the cartels are making off of methamphetamine? And how difficult is it to intercept it at the border?
Right up there with fentanyl. It's one of their most profitable drugs, again, because they control every part of it. The manufacturer, the smuggling into the country, the distribution once it's in the country, so that they don't have to share like they would with Colombian cartels if it was cocaine or something. They don't have the ability to grow it in Mexico, so they have to share it with Colombians if they're dealing with cocaine.
And it's worth noting, these pills are very realistic. Adderall is a very commonly prescribed medication in this country. Molly, or MDMA, as you were referring to it, is a party drug that a lot of adults use when they're out and about. Even oxycodone, a common pain pill. What is your warning to Americans tonight who might be tempted to get these kinds of drugs easily online or on the street?
It's simple. It's the same thing I tell to my family. I tell to any other American. Listen, if you're not getting a prescription, or if you're not getting a pill from a licensed pharmacist as a result of a prescription, you're chancing your life. Anything you find on the street, we're almost at near 100% of the drugs that we seize and pill form on the street are almost nearly all of them fake. There is no such thing. There's no reason that it's way more profitable. They can sell it cheaper. It's a lot easier to get a fake pill versus the real thing, not having to deal with a legitimate going to a doctor or getting a prescription and going to a pharmacist. So, yeah, you're taking your own life in your own hands. Poor decisions, poor life decisions. That's what disturbs me the most, is because there's no such thing as experimentation anymore. Our young men and women who they're targeting, that college age, all of our college age kids that are going there where there might be some experimentation, there's no such thing as anymore, because that one decision you make to take the pill, me and 3 others can choose a pill from the same batch, but I get unlucky and I have the one
right.
with, a fatal dose in it, and that's it. I mean, there's no way to do it. I could tell you, as trained investigators, we have a hard time. We deal with this stuff all the time. I can hold 2 pills in my hand, and I couldn't tell you which one was real and which one wasn't. So my best advice: stay away from them.
So scary. And when people are out and about and somebody says, hey, I've got this, and you want to take it, they're not thinking, where did you get that pill? What might it contain and how contaminated is it? Methamphetamine is a terrible drug. I've done a lot of reporting on it. It ruins and decimates lives. Robert Murphy.
Not just those people's lives, but the families that are involved in it. And Elizabeth, that's why it's so important what you're doing. We're great at what we do. We're going to continue to do our mission, but we also have a responsibility to get this message out, and this is exactly what you're helping, and it couldn't be done. We have to make sure the public is aware of the threats that are as they're developing.
We are happy to help. Robert Murphy, thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate you joining us and sounding this important alarm. All right, coming up for us, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is alleging that the Obama administration made up claims of Russian election interference in the 2016 presidential election. Does she have a case? Chris Cuomo joins me live next to discuss. All right, Chris Cuomo coming up in less than 1 minute. Chris, you're going to speak with two journalists who've covered Russia extensively. This is all about DNI Tulsi Gabbard's claims on Friday that the Obama administration fabricated Russian interference in the 2016 election. Who have you got on?
I have Taibbi and Isakov, and both very strong journalists in their own right. Taibbi leading the independent space on Substack and elsewhere. This is a tricky one. I'm going to listen very closely to this tonight, and I've gone through with my team the timeline that the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, is relying on, and I really believe this is a conflation of two very different things, and it's being done to distract from Epstein. And I think that's a very dangerous thing to do right now, 6 months in, and I'll explain why right now.
A conflation of the hacking of the voting machines and the influence campaign online and social media.
Yes, that no one ever said, unless you know, or it's certainly not in the record,
no,
that this was about Russia changing the tabulations, affecting the outcome mechanically or mechanistically. I don't remember that ever being floated, let alone covering it as such. But it was more a focus on the messaging.
It was ruled out, actually.
Yeah. So, I think this is a ruse, and I think it's a dangerous one, and I think it's unnecessary. So
all right.
That's where we start.
Okay. Have a great show, Chris. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.